right. Welcome everybody. This is another CGC Fireside chat. Slightly changing the format is that I'm going to just do this live straight to YouTube. I always do these unedited anyway, so I thought may as well stream it live to YouTube and have it be a little bit interactive. So welcome. I do these regularly most weeks, addressing some of the things going on at CGC Academy, sometimes answering questions that come up in the comments, and I like to give an update of where I am on development of the curriculum and things like that. One of the things I've been working on is the Grade 3 Cornerstone method, and I've been playing a lot of studies from the Grade 2 curriculum, which was released already this year inside the Academy. I'll be publishing a book with it soon. But I thought to start off with, I'll play you a new study I've been writing for Grade 3, and it plays into what I'll talk about, which is technique today, fundamentals of technique, because we're having a focus on technique throughout the month of August at CGC. We've got guest teachers Gohar Vardanian, Connie Shu, and Evan Tauscher joining in to give technique workshops. I already gave a left-hand technique workshop, and Mr. Dave Belcher just gave one on the right-hand technique. So let me play you a short study I've written for Grade 3, and then I'll talk about how fundamentals of technique can play in. So as you may have noticed with some of the fingering changes I was doing on the fly, I actually haven't written in fingering on this piece yet. One of the huge challenges of creating graded material, so this progressive set of material for CGC Academy, is you can throw in something as simple as a barre, for example, and that immediately jumps up the level of difficulty, just one small moment. And then of course there's compounding things like the length, the speed of the tempo of the piece. But this piece has worked nicely. And so the fundamental characteristic is that of controlling tone quality on the A finger. And many of you may know that the A finger can be very bright and brittle sometimes. We can get our nicest sound out of the I finger and the M finger. And then the A finger can really be very bright. And so in order to counteract that, we can rotate the wrist and get the A finger going a bit more lengthwise along the string. And so throughout this study, the challenge is going to be to move the right hand angle so that you get a bit of sweet tone. That's an I finger sound there. So it's really a balancing act and paying attention to the tone quality. And where that comes into fundamentals is when we're learning technique, there can often be so many advanced elements we talk about, all these fancy spider exercises or very fast scales, ornate sort of, the technique is really just a never-ending pit of things that you can dive into. And so the fundamentals element really comes into things like this. just setting up our posture, getting our positions right, and showing our fingers, even sometimes if we've been playing for a long time, reminding the fingers of how they want to move. And this is how my technique session started off the other day inside the academy. We just walked through some very basic exercises, aligning the left hand, focusing on the curl of the fingers, the placement of the thumb behind the fingerboard, our posture, how we address the instrument, how the instrument comes to us. And just a reminder of all of these aspects that play into our technique. And I think it's so important to constantly reinforce these fundamentals as we're playing. Sometimes it's great just for the first 5 minutes just to go through the basics. And in the right hand, it might be tone production, matching, that's my I finger, and the M finger, then the A finger, gentle arpeggios, showing our hand how we want it to be placed on the strings, how the right hand position orients itself each time. So just this gentle reinforcement. And one of the common questions I often get is about practice and how much do we need to practice and when should we expect to move on and all of these things. One element about fundamentals when it comes to classical guitar, because it's an instrument that has the fundamentals permeating everything we do. Even at the highest levels of the most complex pieces, the fundamentals are still present in everything. And so when we're trying to change our technique, when we're trying to improve our technique, there's an element of patience that comes into it, where we just really want to show our hands, here is how I'd like you to move, and then be mindful of anything else as well. Often, especially if you're reinventing your technique or trying to refine it, it's becoming aware of all the things you might be doing that perhaps you weren't aware of. A lot of them include fingers flying away from the fingerboard, extra movements that aren't necessary. And so just trying to get the calm, the stillness, and only what we need in our technique to get the music, to get the musical ideas that we have out through the instrument. It's really, our technique is a tool to get our musical ideas out into the ears of the listeners. So it's going to be a wonderful month of technique focus inside the academy. And as ever, I'm continuing to develop the CGC curriculum with grade 3. I've actually, every now and then, as I said, it's quite hard to keep the level down low enough to be in grade 3 without leaping up to grade 4, 5, or 6, because I get a little carried away with some things. But in the process, I've actually written quite a number of more advanced studies just because I got too involved in the music, and I just decided, okay, let's go and let the piece evolve to where it wants to be musically, and then they end up inevitably being that much more challenging. We do have exams coming up in the academy in September. I know a lot of people are preparing for those, and very much look forward to hearing what you've been working on the last few months. We'll have live sessions where you can log on to Zoom and work one-to-one with a teacher and get your feedback immediately. And of course, we have the recording process as well that we have through the exams. Just a reminder that the exams at CGC Academy are really there to help you get feedback, number one, set a goal for yourself in terms of giving yourself something to work towards, something to keep your practice focused, and also to help you understand if you've been working in isolation, working with online materials but not having direct feedback on a regular basis, then to get a sense of when it's ready to move on. Ultimately, the exams, from my point of view, are there to say from a teacher, yes, you are ready to move on to more advanced material if you wish to. Because one of the other things about classical guitar repertoire is there's so much good music, and you can go horizontally for a while if you like. We've been adding a lot of really good music inside the Academy through the Easy Classical Guitar series, with grades 1, 2, and 3 having a lot more variety. So if you're studying grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, don't be afraid to stay within that grade and just explore more of the music that's available to you. You'll find all of the music listed inside the repertoire library. We just added another piece by Mertz a couple days ago, and we're actually going to be releasing quite soon a whole collection of Renaissance pieces, adding that to the Easy Classical Guitar collection as well. So I hope you're all well. This was a little experiment to go live on YouTube instead of recording unedited and posting up. So if you're watching live, might be a few people out there, you can say hello if you like. But yeah, I'll be doing these more regularly, and I'll try and get a bit more of a regular rhythm with the live sessions as well. So maybe I'll end it off. Do I have another study I could play for you? Maybe I'll just play. I'll play this study one more time. I don't want to give away too many upcoming secrets for the grade 3. So one more time, you can focus. Maybe I'll turn this way so you can see my A finger on the reaction. Oh, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Just have a look what I talked about with the A finger coming in lengthwise. I call it tone compensation, right? So you've got our normal right hand position, but of course the A finger is positioned closer to the bridge, and you get a bit more of a bright ponticello sound. So if we rotate the hand, dip the wrist a little bit, and go a bit more lengthwise, we can get a warmer, more singing sound with the A finger. Sometimes it's nice to benchmark it against the best sounding finger you have, perhaps. Here's my I finger with a light rest stroke, and then try and mimic it with the A finger, as opposed to something like this, which can sometimes happen. So let's just try one more time with this study. Have a look at the A finger. So a nice little study there. PIM in the arpeggios with the A finger singing there on the melody. Just a couple of questions came in on the chat, so thank you for those watching. I know this was an impromptu live session, so these are sessions I normally do pre-recorded, albeit unedited, and just pop them up on YouTube, but I thought I may as well do it live. So Jeffrey said, you mentioned mindfulness when playing. Do you visualize or audiate the notes or tone you're trying to create before you play it? So audiate, I like that word, audiation. I first came across it with Adam Neely, on a bass player who does a lot of YouTubing. Audiation is this idea of hearing the sound that you're going to create in your mind's ear, so your imagination, before you play it. And I think that's a really valid approach. Quoting someone else as well, I remember in a masterclass given by Pepe Romero and the Manhattan School of Music, he described starting a piece of repertoire like a surfer joining a wave. I thought it was very beautiful. I used to do a lot of surfing when I was younger. And, joining a wave, the wave exists further out from you, and then it comes in and you paddle, 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 and you join it and flow along together. And the nice idea about that is it's a bit more, it allows you that space rather than suddenly starting a piece, and perhaps you can get the jitters if you don't give yourself a bit of mental lead in, and it can be a bit jarring for you, especially if you're suffering from stage fright or your hands are shaking. And so the idea of joining the music lets you hear the music, perhaps hearing the tempo. So hearing the tempo is great because you don't have to rush. And then, yes, the tone you're creating At the very least, you're just being mindful and intentional with as opposed to just starting. Maybe your mind's somewhere else. Maybe you're thinking about the red blinking light on the camera, or maybe you're thinking about performing or whatever. The idea of hearing it, or yes, visualizing perhaps not as much, or maybe it can be helpful, but hearing it before you start can be really, really very useful. So Jeff, great point. Well, this was an experiment. So thank you for those of you who said hello on the chat on YouTube. And this was this week's Fireside Chat. I'll do another one. If you have questions for future Fireside Chats, please leave them in the comments, either on YouTube or inside the forum in the Academy, and I'll get to them next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.